Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, many of our listeners know you and your team are the only people I ever recommend when it comes to buying or selling a home. You've been in the market selling homes for a long, long time. What are some home improvements that could actually hurt a home's appraisal and, more importantly, a home's value?
Well, Richard, it's a great question. And you know what? A lot of people get those two words confused, an appraisal and value, and they are two different things. So what is an appraisal for? The only purpose of an appraisal, and it is a opinion of value. It's done by a third party person that's licensed in the state of Colorado to give opinions of value, but it's for the purpose of substantiating the home's value to a lender. So if the lender is going to loan so much on a house, they need an appraiser to say it's worth that much. They also verify that the home meets what they call the loan guidelines. In other words, the home's condition is sufficient to protect the money that the lender is giving on the home, so that it's not, they're not giving $1 million loan on a love shack kind of thing. So what we see with that sometimes is the appraisers will say, okay, we agree that the home is worth the contract that the buyer agreed to pay, but in order for it to pass qualification for the different type of loan, we need these things resolved. So it could be for FHA and VA, they're real sticklers on peeling paint on any building on the property. For all three, conventional, FHA, VA, they will tag safety issues like big giant window wells that aren't covered that kids could fall in, or trip hazards, or any kind of safety item. Those are called loan guidelines, or another term for it is lender property requirements. But that number, that opinion of value, is a different number. It could be a different number than what the buyer is paying for the home. Okay. The buyer, when they get a contract on a home, they have agreed to pay a certain price. And it really doesn't matter what the appraiser says. Sometimes the appraisals come in higher than what the buyer agreed to pay, which is, nice thing to know. It's like, okay, you're walking in the door with a little bit of home equity. You can't really do anything with it. You're not going to get more of a loan on it. And the only time it creates a problem is if the opinion of value comes in at less than the contract price. But the buyer could still buy the home. They could still come up with a difference in cash. So who gives an opinion of value? Basically, the buyers do, right? The volume of buyers, the volume of offers, how much are the offers? The buyer has the voting right on what a home is worth. And many people think that there is like this big national database of appraisals. There are not. It is a document that an individual person has gone out and created. It's typically a 40-page document on opinion of value. There's no database of appraisals. Generally, buyers don't care much about them as long as they can get the house that they want. It's the buyer that has the vote on the value actually before the appraisal even takes place. I've actually had some sellers think that they should go out and get an appraisal prior to putting their home on the market. Why don't we just get an appraisal? And then we have a quote expert giving an opinion of value. Well, I've had that go sideways before. I had one gentleman that ended up getting an appraisal on their home because they were taking some money out to buy another property. Okay, fine. And they believed that opinion of value that appraiser gave was the true market value. And it really wasn't. And the reason was that the home, even though it was in a nice location, it had great views, it was very, very dated. And so buyers weren't willing to pay that much. So this seller insisted I price it according to what the appraised value was at $1.25 million, and the home sold for $890,000. Oops. So that's not correct, is it? And you want to ask the seller, well, did the appraiser make you an offer at 1.25 million? No, they don't make offers. It's the buyer that is the reason for the money coming in, right? So it's an opinion, it has a function, but it's not the same thing, not even close to the same thing as what a real market value is. And the same could be said for those online guesstimates, zestimates, whatever, I think on realtor.com they call it real value or something weird like that. Ultimately, the buyer has the first vote on what the home is worth in the form of their offer and or contract. Okay. And that is what they agree to pay. And once you get a contract, then you have agreement between buyer and seller in what they're paying. So it doesn't matter if an appraisal comes in low, the buyer still has the option to continue and bring the difference in cash. And I just had that happen not too long ago where an appraisal came in really crazy low. I think it was somewhere around 30,000 below the contract price. But because the buyer was putting substantial down, it really didn't matter. It was just information. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. You're still going to buy the home at the contract price. So let's talk about the things that will actually hurt your value. This question is a great question. I kind of stumbled on it on the internet. I thought this would be fun to talk about it. Okay, so in general, you definitely want to take care of broken and or deferred maintenance things like old tired furnaces. I talked to one seller that said, yeah, my furnace is 35 years old, but it still works. Well, I mean, we might be able to put a home warranty on it, but at the end of the day, if it has anything wrong with it, a buyer's going to ask for a new furnace because they don't want to improve a home that they're buying unless they're getting a screaming deal on it. Water heaters get tagged often during home inspections. A water heater, depending on what type of home they're put in, I've had plumbers tell me that if they're in Colorado Springs and they're using regular city water, they could only last as few as 6 years, which seems low. Our water heaters lasted over 20 years, and they really didn't have to be replaced at the time that we did it. I was just afraid they were going to suddenly fail when we were out of town or something. Roofs get dinged all the time in this climate just because of hail that happens. So we see a lot of people needing roofs. And then you also want to make sure that you don't create demand destruction over the cosmetic things, because that's what the buyers can see, right? That's what gets them to say the love word and want to buy your house. What do the cosmetic things look like? Do they have nice counters? Do they have nice appliances? Do they have good lighting? Do they have good flooring? The buyers are going to walk in the door, and what they're looking at in their minds, they may not say it, but I think it's very subliminal where they're going, okay, I could live here. Oh, I love it just like it is. Or I like the layout, but I'm going to have to put too much money into it to make it to today's standard. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to fully upgrade a house, but people will not accept your tired, beat up house. Let me give you an example. I'm showing you a picture right now of a home. Well, actually, I sold it to this client and they bought it new, and they lived in it and, raised their kids in it for over 20 years. And it took a serious beating. Hardwood floors were really discolored. The white cabinets were beat up and broken and things like that. And you just can't leave it like that because otherwise you just won't get top dollar. So the seller made the right decision and did all kinds of improvements on the home so it looked fresh and clean and move-in ready. And he didn't hurt his value by doing that. He got top dollar. Also, be very careful about limiting your buyer population with improvements. Let me give you an example. So a lot of folks that don't use bathtubs anymore, they put usually at least 2 bathtubs in most homes, but a lot of people don't frequently use them. And so they'll think, oh, well, I'll just remodel this bathroom and take the tub out and just put in only a shower. Well, if there is no other tub in the house, you actually could limit your buyer population because people with little kids typically want baths, and even people that are adults want baths. Also be careful about things like knocking out walls to make two smaller bedrooms into one massive bedroom. That's especially true if you don't have other bedrooms on the main level. I did have one client recently that did that and it worked out great, but they had three other good sized bedrooms on the main level. So it was no issue. And be careful about adding things that you like that others may not want. You may not get the buyer to pay for it. Examples would be pools and hot tubs, right? They're very expensive. Or adding bulky things into a home, like building in a massive desk in a bedroom where you can't fit a bed in there anymore. And then another big no-no, of course, is adding carpet near any water source. I know you've heard me talk about this before, Richard, about not the builders used to put carpet in master bathrooms just because it was cheap, but most of the buyers just do not like it. So be careful about doing things like that. And then just failing to upgrade is something that could hurt your value for sure. If a buyer comes in and says, no, it needs too much updating, something's wrong. Now, I've had homes that the sellers chose not to do any updating at all. I had one a few years back that was built in the 70s. They bought it new. They didn't improve anything, but it was in pristine condition. It looked like a brand new home built in the 70s in the 2020. You know, it's kind of funny. But they priced it right and they got it sold. Also, another big mistake that you can make is not taking care of curb appeal. Front yard, backyard, absolutely critical for people right now. Make sure you get that right. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about home improvements that hurt your home's appraisal and value. And when we come back, we're going to pick up on a few more things on what you should do to increase your home's value. Richard?
To find out more about how to hire the best team and find your next home, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or contact her through her website, barbhasthebuyers.com. And we're talking with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program, about home improvements that could actually hurt a home's value. So, Barb, what are some of the other things that home sellers need to know about?
Well, the yard in general is important. And, you know, this time of year in the winter, it's a little bit tougher because the yards go dormant. They don't look pretty. They don't look neat and tidy. But a lot of people are working from home, right? So the yard is super important. Even in the winter, I have one client right now with their houses on the market. And for our open house, it had just snowed and they turned on a little fire in the backyard and it just looked so warm and inviting even in the winter. So these little bonfire pits are very nice. Curb appeal is absolutely critical. And if you don't get that right, the buyers are going to turn their nose up at it. And of course, inside the home, if you have like a deck or something that's enclosed, make sure you put a heater in there because you might be able to count the square footage. Heated floors are kind of cool, but just make sure everything is fresh, clean. When you look, like I have a listing, I had a listing where they replaced the carpet in the basement, but not in the main level, but you can see all the traffic areas. So it's subliminal, but the buyers are saying, oh, it needs too much work, right? All they would have had to do is just replace the main level carpet, and I think, and we would have had a contract by now. So those are the kind of things that are really important for you to think about, and you have to be non-judgmental. Buyers don't want to purchase homes that need updating. They're getting in with all the cash that they have. So if you are thinking of making a move and you would like to get a customized interview with us on what to do, what not to do to get your house ready for sale, we'll show you all of our buyers that match your home, even our cash buyers, and give you a good idea of what it will sell for. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program and the proprietor of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's been doing it for decades here in Colorado. And if you're thinking of making a move, just call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing why most agents don't bother to stage homes, plus Barb's hot new listing. Stay tuned for that.